much for organizer about invite me to come here to present something about Vietnamese animal production. Yes, I think I am always very happy to come back here because this time is the third time I come back here, and you see, well, I come here with requirement from the committee organizer. I do presentation about something about the economics of the animal production in Vietnam. Yes. Sorry. My presentation. Firstly, I do presentation something about Vietnam. Maybe some of you don't know very well about it. And after that, I present about livestock production and some other animal production, characteristic of animal production in small household in Vietnam. And the fourth, I present about the challenges or difficulties of animal production in Vietnam. Yeah. And last one is conclusion. Yes, first about Vietnam. Vietnam's, I think, not so small country, but very small compared with Indonesia. And you see very well here's. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, you see areas is about more than 300,000 square kilometer. But you see it's a very long country, from north to south, more than 2,500 kilometers, and sometimes very, very narrow here. And that's why the small country, but very diversified on the climate. With different reasons, we have 8 ecological zones. You see very well, and that's why it's the reason the farmers they develop some kind of element very different from this region to other. And Vietnam's nationality, Vietnamese and population is, I think, second of the Asian country after.
Very strong.
Not very strong, but second population, very important, about 19.5 million. Yeah, I think after Indonesia, it's Vietnam in Asian country. And with group minority or ethnic, we have many, about more than 50 ethnic different, and each ethnic they speak different language, different custom or something like that, and that's why you see sometimes not very easy to educate or other thing. And but for us, for Viet, it's important. It's about 80%, 87%. Yeah. And for livestock production, you see livestock production play more and more important in the economy of Vietnam. And it's about 30% of the agriculture, but we call agriculture, forestry, and aquaculture. And they say about 30% of GDP. And growth rate, I think, is very high compared with other fields in the agriculture. About 5% per year, in which pork production important increased about 2.7%, and poultry meat production about 10%, egg production about 8%, and meat production increased very, very quickly last year. Yeah. And we think in Vietnam we consume animal production continue develop well because to respond to the requirements, social requirement. Yeah. And you can see with a very short time you can see about the picture of the animal production in Vietnam. Firstly, you see, yeah, for the pig you see about 30 and 28, 29 million pig, because the pig in Vietnam is very important. And for the cattle, about 5 million only, because we are not advantaged for ruminant or cattle or something like this. And buffalo, we have about 2.5 million. And for the For the Ponchi, we have for Ponchi in total we have about 350 million head. But not only chicken, but we have a lot of duck. And I think so we are second duck population in Asia. Yeah, we develop very well duck in Vietnam. Yeah. For dairy cattle, in the past Vietnam, we have no tradition for the dairy cattle. We consume not much, but some year last decade we increase very quickly with dairy cattle, and we hope until now we have about 300,000 dairy cattle. We hope in some year we get about 500,000 cattle. We develop very, very quickly. Why you do like this? Because to respond to requirement, society requirement. And you see for the here you can see the meat we produce, and here you can see it's very important for the pork. The present is very important. Yeah. For the consumption structure, you can see yes. For the pork, we consume, you see, about 40 kilograms per person, because we consume a lot of meat. For chicken, about 10 kilo, and for the cattle, beef, not much, because we cannot develop cattle. That's why the quantity of beef is not very important. But for fresh milk, you see, I think last time I heard information from Professor Buti, but we are maybe less than you, but about 8 kilograms per person. And now we get like this. But in the future, near future, I think we increase very quickly with about this. And now it's about 8 kilograms per person per year. Yeah. For the characteristic of the animal livestock production system in Vietnam, you see, if you visit Vietnam, you can see we develop with a very, very small scale and very diversified. Firstly, you can see here, you can see in the ecological region, until now we have about more than 4 million small households. We continue with pig production. With in total Vietnam we have more than 20,000 household. But for pig production they represent about 25%. That means 4.1 million households. But you see with the scale, very, very small scale. You see, for the household, they have from less than 10 pigs per household. They represent a lot. They represent about 80%. And for people, they have more than 50 pigs, 40 head. You see, represent in the you see only less than 1%. That means with the large scale, very, very small one. But almost people, they develop but very small scale. And different reasons like this, but you can see well, so for the north and the center Vietnam, the pig develops mostly in the north and the center Vietnam. You see about 80% is the north and center Vietnam. In south Vietnam, not many people rear. Yeah, you can see the reason. Yeah. And for chicken, I think it's the same. You see, for chicken, less than 100 head. You see, represent about 98%, 97%. And the rest from 100 and more 100, you see only 3%. That means, you see, with scale, very, very small scale. And that's why when you think about how we can help them with very small size and how they can survive with new economies today. Yeah. And that's why for the scientific like us, how we can help with the very, very small scale like this. Yeah. And you see, but we have problem because, yeah, sorry. We have problem because a very small one, but you see, we have a very, very big one, or large one also. We call mega farm, with 10,000 or many examples. In one company in Vietnam, they have a big risk in Asia, because they have more than 100,000 dairy cattle, very big one. And now for the chicken, also the same. Chicken, they develop in one farm, maybe 800,000 or something like it, and many 800,000 hen. And that's why, and other problem is pollution or something like it. That's why you see we met a lot of difficulty. And they are not farmer. They are from the other. They work on the construction. They work on the immobility or something like this. They have a lot of money. After that, they invest in element production, and they invest a lot, and finally they control the market. And you see some dairy cattle like this, or the beef, you see, developed with a very, very large farm. And for the productivity, for the production, you see, normally for farm household, they worked not specified. That means they have different kinds of element, and not only element production, but element production, crop production, and aquaculture. And the last time when we organized SILAS, I organized a visiting of the college. We visit the countryside. Almost the families, they have some different activity, economic activity, to increase their income. Because if they focus only one activity, sometimes they met a lot of risk. And you see here, I have example. We have 3 systems. And our first system, you see, they develop the vegetable and vegetable with element and feed. And second, you see, they develop the element and the feed production. And this system is very popular in Vietnam, because in our country, a lot of water. And that's why very easy to develop the aquaculture. And you know well, Vietnam now becomes the aquaculture country, a very big aquaculture. Because we are the first exporter shrimp in the world. Yes. And for the Pangasius, we are very important also, with a very, very high productivity. Yeah. And for other is mixed element dry farm production system is very popular also, because with very, very small area. You imagine in our region, I live, you see, the farmer, one farmer, they have only 2,500 square meter for agricultural activity. 2,500 square meter, very, very narrow. And that's why they always had to think how they can survive, and that's why they try to diversify their economic activity. And you can see what is the animal production contribute to the income. Their income is depend on the system. Example, you see for the first system is vegetable cultivated crop system, animal production, aquaculture, no. But for the other system, you see, for the animal production, they contribute from 20% to 60%. That means animal production, they play very important role in economics of farmer. Yeah. And other you see, so not only you see for the crop production, animal production, aquaculture, and off-farm activity. And now more and more income from the off-farm activity, because the people, they not only work on farm, but they can work for industry, or they work outside to increase their income. But now I can say some difficulties of the animal production. I think it's not only us, but many other countries will have problem. Firstly, we can say about no productivity in animal production. As I say to you, for the larger farm, low problem, because we get with very high productivity. But for the small farm, the price, the productivity not very high. Why like this? Because it's not very easy. We transfer new technology, approaches or suitable activity to small farmer. And now the university, we have to think how to help the small farmer. But sometimes the government, they don't think like this. They prefer large farm. They don't like small farm. And that's why sometimes the opposition between the scientific and the politician. Because the society for all people, not only for richer people. And firstly, and that's why we had to find out the system, good system, to improve the efficiency or to improve the productivity for small farm. And secondly, is because they developed as many farms like this, because we have about 8 million households for chicken production, and for more than 8 million for the pig production. And that's why with a very small scale like this, and that's why we have a lot of risk from animal disease. Animal disease mostly for the chicken, you see, with influenza, and for pigs, you see, the PRRS is very popular. And when I come here on the airplane, I reach now in the south of Vietnam, we continue with influenza on the chicken. And that's why we always think about it. Because with the small household, it's not very easy to control all disease or epidemiology. And other thing, maybe you heard about this because for tropical country and for developing country, sometimes we use a lot of antibiotic and forbidden chemical like clenbuterol, salbutamol, or something like this. But Vietnam, we have a very big ambition. From next year, we stop use antibiotic. But I don't know so we can do or not, because we can buy the antibiotic very easy. But we try to stop, because now we know very well we have problem with resistance to antibiotic. One part from the animal production. And other thing is a residue from antibiotics for nature for us. And we try to control more and more. And other thing is which operation of elements product commodity chain. That means linkage between the producer and the consumer very weak. And when very weak like this, that's why finally the people, they produce, they sell with no price, and the consumer, they buy it with a high price. And sometimes quantity is not, they don't know. And they don't know, that's why I can think that they resist when they decide to buy or not. That's why it's the problem. And now we try some years ago, but not very good. But for the large farm, it's more easier compared with small one, because the large farm, they have the plan of sell their product. It's very easy, but small farm, and how we do, because they have custom, they sell on the wet market, and finally they cannot sell with a high price. And the other thing is big fluctuations about animal feed and animal product. Because you see in Vietnam, we developed the animal production, but we had to import a lot of input from outside. Not only like about 45% from the energy-rich feed, 80% from protein feeds, and more than 90% additive. That means our market, we depend much about the international market. And you see, and finally, the price of the input of production cost is higher compared with labor country. And I can say to you, this year is a very bad year for animal production in Vietnam. Because for pig production in Vietnam, is very important, because we consume about 75% of meat we consume. But this year, from from the November last year until now, the price of pig very, very low. And the people, they not a lot of money. Why like it? Because in the past, they rear the pig with a high price. They sell very good, they earn a lot of money. That's why many people, many big companies, they invest in pig production to sell to China, to sell in Vietnam, and finally we cannot sell to China, and finally we cannot. And until now, and when my colleague come, we have problem, and now until the price very, very low because we produce too much. And you see, for pig example, you see, for pig, you see, they not one pig, one period, so they can not about $50 US, one pig, 50. If they rear, you remember, 1,000 pig, they not a lot of money. Yeah, and that's and until now the government they have no solution, and that's why how we think about the sustainable development. And next week the farmer invite me to come back to say to how to overcome the situation. I don't know. I not say it's very difficult for all country because until now we don't know when the price of pig increase. Because we produce a lot of. That's why how we do. But I try to help them, discuss with them how to help them to pass and how to help them to develop better with more efficiency because a big problem like this. I think, I don't know, in Indonesia you have problem a lot, but Vietnam, in the past only 3 months we have problem. And maximum for 3 months or 5 or 6 months. But now, I think maybe 1 year. We cannot change the price. Yeah. And other thing is problem with pollution. Why pollution? Because you see more and more developed, but now we have a large farm and they concentrate in some region like Red River Delta where our university is, where is my university, where the territory is very small, only 6.5%. But about 20% pig population, 25% of the poultry population, and for the people, you see, for people about 22%. That means one reason very crowded with the people, with the pig, with the chicken. That's why the problem pollution, big problem. And how we do. And I think it's the big question for us. Until now, we have many solutions, but we have to think about a suitable solution because the farmers, small farmers, they don't accept with the technology, with the high price, with high cost. They don't like. They prefer with no cost, very easy, and I think it's the role of the scientists to help them. And finally, you can see very well in Vietnam now. So we are tendency to more and more intensive in almond production, and we see very contradiction between the very small scale as a farm household and very large scale household. I see, I don't know, but many people they say it's very large house farm in Vietnam compared with other. In Asia, where for dedicated with a big kids, large kids, but the government they prefer. But many scientists they don't like, but the government they prefer. That's why they can do. And other thing is animal production system is very diversified. Why like this? Because the farmers, they work on very small scale, they had to avoid risk. That's why they diversify not only almond production, but they combine with almond production with other activity like aquaculture, like crop science, crops production. And now our farmers, they had to face a lot of difficulty as I present, and I think for us not very easy to overcome all difficulty like this. But we try to help the farmers how they do. Yeah, and I say the other thing in Vietnam we have pig production chicken production and the cattle production, and for only pig production we export. But almost export, how can I say, is unofficial, not official. That means we sell to China or other, only some country, we export to some other country like Malaysia and Hong Kong and other official, but to China, not official. That's why sometimes they close the border, we cannot sell, and finally we have big problem immediately. And for chicken, we had to import. But before that today, we start export, the first export to Japan. And for cattle, we import a lot from Australia, New Zealand, and from labor country like Thailand, like Laos, or something like that. And I think with my presentation, I said you can imagine about animal production in Vietnam and many difficulties for the farmer in Vietnam. Thank you very much for attention. If you have any question, I answer. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Dinh Ton, for very nice and very clear presentation. Actually, maybe in Indonesia we also face the same problem related to the household farmers.
Yeah.
Maybe first we make a thanks again. Then we still have 10 minutes, so we are going to give a chance for maybe 2 questions from the audiences. Okay, please.
Good morning. I'm from UGM, Malaysia. I find Vietnam a very long country. They have not with so many things that you do. Vietnam is #1 in shrimp, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Vietnam is #1 in pangasius, or what we call pate. Or pate catfish. In fact, you can go to Sweden or US and many other places, and you order fish and chip, you are probably getting the fish from Vietnam. As a meat scientist, I'm a meat scientist. Yeah? Being so successful in these 2 products, and I know because I visited some of the biggest pangasius farm in Vietnam.
Yeah.
It is a cooperative run by your government. The Farmers Cooperative run by the government on these 2 products, shrimp and pangasius. My question is simple. Why is the government of Vietnam not doing it for your potential number 3, number 4?
I answer. Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. But in fact, I don't know the information. I can see something about animal agricultural product. You see, we are second exporter of the rice, second exporter of the coffee, and for shrimp very important, pangasius very important, but not cooperatives, not government. They manage all private. Yeah. And you see, why sometimes you think like this? Because if we would like to export, we had to reorganize production. And that's example for the export product like shrimp, like pangasius, they had to, how can I say, they ask the people, they work, and they share information, and they sell to the company. And they control very well. Because if they don't control well, maybe they use a lot of antibiotic, or they use other product. It's not good for the product, and they not can sell. But you see, always private. When with the theory in Vietnam, you see, I think different with our country. In Vietnam, in the past, before 1990, all activity in the cooperative, but not successful. And until now, I say cooperative like Vietnam we do not successful because they are not voluntary. They participate in cooperative, but not voluntary. And the other thing, we cannot control because many people in the cooperative. That's very difficult. And I hope so. We have to change the style of the cooperative. If we don't change, the people they don't participate. But you see, if the government facility the activity, I think in Vietnam we can produce very quickly. Yeah. It's okay for you, yeah.
Thank you very much. Maybe you have still any questions? Okay, please, Professor.
Cảm ơn nhiều. Well, I'd like to congratulate the organizing committee for organizing a very interesting platform already. Tomorrow is my presentation, so don't forget. Anyway, this morning we have heard a very interesting presentation by Professor Sia regarding many modern technologies relating to smallholder farmers. And I fully agree with him that it was very feasible for transferring these technologies. And now to Professor Ben, I agree with you that we have heard Vietnam has been going very rapidly and really very dynamic. Because one thing that I've been there many times, many years, many times, back and forth. One thing is the attitude of the farmers that has really closely related to the acceptance of technology and also the changes. Because their attitude is going forward and they could easily accept the technology, the advancement and so on and so forth. This is one thing. Secondly is the energy, and the energy of the Vietnamese people. That is so strongly coming. And I think that they can move forward very nicely together. So if, even in Thailand, we need to learn from Vietnam the dynamics and power of the people. I think we can move forward. The rate of changing movement is so dynamic and we cannot keep up with it. So that is very interesting presentation you have given us, and you were very lucky to be able to learn already from the two key speakers here. And because of the career path in science, that we'll be meeting each other again and again. Professor Sia talked repeatedly. He said, Professor, talk about old stuff, but still not old, right? Anyway, so it's true. This is scientific platform that will bring us all together. The young people like us, like you, is very fortunate to come together and listen. So this is a lesson learned, which is very significant from both already. I'm sure the platform forum here would move forward very successfully. So Vietnam, I think that we have to learn from you, and I think that there's many new findings that will give us more experiences. And importantly, is for us to work together, creating the networking like this. This is very, it's a momentum for all of us to get together like this. So let's move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yes, thank you, Professor Mita. He said something about Vietnamese, but we had to learn from you a lot. But I think energy, in fact, sometimes I try to explain why like this. Because a lot of difficulty. We are hungry, was hungry, and that's why we had to work. And now we try. But always we have problem. In 1990, we export only 80 million tons of coffee. 10 years later, 10 times more. 10 times more. 800,000 tons of coffee exportation. And that's why finally the price decrease and we cut off. And big production like this, all people develop, and now we have problem. And swim, you see, so we have experience from the Thai swim develops like this, but I afraid because they develop very quickly, but sometimes problem. That's why we need the government they supply supply information, good information for them. Because I am the committee of the generating to the information to farmer. It's not very easy because I say not only price of the product, but about the market. That means what is the level of the market we have, and that's why we have to think to how to help the farmer, and we have to help the farmer to produce more efficiency. But if you don't have the farmer, they do also. They learn from others very quickly. Yeah. But sometimes develop like this is not good. Yeah. Thank you.
One more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. I forgot one more thing.
I'd like to add is education. Education is important for all, but Vietnam in the past 10 years has really pushed up for education program to send out their young scientists. Just like Indonesia in the past, up until now, you've been doing a good job. In Vietnam, that wave of young people have returned home. And that's why energy is coming from the young generation.
Yeah.
They're getting together, you know. Also in
Yeah.
Thailand,
Yeah.
in the last 10 years, some students, I had former students working there. So now they have, stood up and doing the best thing. And this is why Vietnam is moving forward with education, and we have to work together, get together more and more, just like this platform again. I emphasize that this is an important platform, and we will work together, like we've been having some students in other countries, and in Thailand at KTU as well. So this is a good thing. Let's get educational platform and achievements all together. Education of the farmers is also important. That has been extended to them. They have good attitude and they have good education from extension people, especially I've seen in Vietnam on the grassroots, on the farm level. So they work together, wherever no matters is happening. So that technology is easily adopted. It's appropriate technology and it's economically feasible. And the economic standpoint is important for smallholder farmers. Whatever, they can accept technology if that is related to economics. Thank you.
Thank you.